Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the latest game I beat, a classic here on the NES through the Nintendo Switch online service, and that game is Super Mario Brothers, a classic, video game, one of the most iconic games that anyone can play. Released originally in 1985. This is the mascot, side-scrolling game that really put Nintendo on the map in terms of home consoles. The NES broke through the American market, and the rest is history. Mario nowadays, he's one of the most iconic and recognizable, I guess, figures in popular culture. And this was, even though it wasn't Mario's first game, it was, in my opinion, the start of his popularity and fame. And originally, I never had the game when I was growing up. But I did play this on friends and neighbors' NES systems. I was more of a late 8-bit player, and then shortly after I started playing games in the 8-bit era, I got a Super Nintendo, and that's how I spent most of my childhood. But I have a lot of fond memories of playing Super Mario Brothers, back in the day with my friends, and to me, this is the type of game that truly defines, I guess, gaming in a way. Like, I understand that before the NES we had the Atari, the Commodore 64, arcade systems and whatnot. So there were a myriad of home consoles and other ways to play video games out there. But my personal opinion, and I think a lot of people share this, is the NES was just for me, I consider that the true beginning, and Super Mario Brothers, it was the perfect example, because that game just to me, that game symbolizes gaming in general, period. There's nothing more intuitive than just playing a good side-scrolling game, and Super Mario Brothers has become the go-to example, and even to this day, we still cherish the sound effects of when you grab a coin, or when you go down a pipe, or the world 1-1 iconic song, the Mario Brothers song, or the underground levels iconic song as well. It's just a popular culture icon. It's more than a game, and it was a fresh experience for me, even though I have played this game as a grown-up, I guess, as an adult. Every now and then, I think I probably played this game and beat it a couple of years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But it was time to revisit it. Since I have the Switch online service game, it was a time to play the game again. And what I did for this playthrough in Super Mario Brothers, I told myself I'm not gonna use the shortcuts, because I always use. Every time I play, it's so easy to use the shortcuts on that second level, underground level. Performing that jump and going on top of the level. But I told myself, I always use those shortcuts. They take away from the overall gameplay time. So I purposely play each level sequentially until I finally, defeated Bowser and rescued Princess Toadstool, or Princess Peach. So. It was a good experience. Graphically, the game, for its time, obviously, it was a really good looking game. And as I mentioned earlier, even in modern times, this game has just a charm. The pixelated graphics, they're just iconic. So in a way, the game doesn't look old. In a way, the game just looks right. It looks just fine for what it is, and we all cherish and enjoy for the game for what it is. I think it's very impressive what Nintendo did. When you start looking at the subsequent Mario games, Mario Brothers 2 and Super Mario Brothers 3 on the NES, they have much better graphics and pixel art and whatever you want to call it. But Super Mario Brothers was the OG, the first game, and in my opinion, it's an impressive showing of Nintendo for being an early game. The sound effects, as I mentioned, they're iconic. The coins you pick up, the sound when you jump. The soundtrack, amazing, by Koji Kondo. It's classic Nintendo, and it doesn't get any better than that. So thoroughly enjoyed listening to the different themes and sound effects that this game has to offer. But the gameplay obviously is king when it comes to the side-scrolling platformer. Now, as a as a modern, I guess, gamer nowadays, it's a little bit hard to digest the physics in Super Mario Brothers. That's the one area where I have a little bit of some problems. Like, I want to say, even in the even back in the day, I didn't really like the physics, if that makes any sense. I found always the jumps to be way too like floaty. The momentum, like as soon as Mario, like if you're running, jumping, and then when you land, you have this like crazy momentum pushing you forward that it's very hard to control. And this game obviously has a lot of different types of enemies that make that make you die very cheaply if you don't understand or know the levels very well. So I played most of the levels being very cautious. Like, I'm a runner when it comes to Super Mario games, the side-scrolling games. I'm always holding the run button pretty much for 90% of the time. But I play the original Super Mario Brothers in a reverse way where I'm not running as much. I think moving without the run button has enough good speed for you to make most of the jumps. And then, of course, when you need that extra boost, obviously you have to hold the jump button and then make the long jumps. But even then, there's this weird dash. It's hard to explain. I'm sure if you guys have played this game, you experienced this before. But there's just this weird push if you start using the dash and jump button that really throws you off. And it's just very upsetting. When you're trying to complete, platforming sections. So in that regard, I'm not a huge fan of the physics of Super Mario Brothers. Can't be too harsh on the game though, because it was the first, foray of Nintendo doing side-scrolling platformers. But I'm really glad they changed it, or they changed the physics and the formula for subsequent Mario games. I'm a huge fan of the Super Mario World physics, and even then I think like there are a lot of modern platformers, side-scrolling platformers that have improved obviously greatly when it comes to physics and just the overall feel of the characters. But this is definitely not the best in terms of gameplay in my opinion. But other than that, it's a fun game. The levels are fairly well designed. There's 8 worlds in this one with 4, I guess, levels in each world. And as I mentioned, I went through all the levels one by one. The difficulty ramps up, especially in the world number 6, 6 through 8. 8 has a bunch of different, very tough levels. They start using the hammer Koopa brothers or whatever enemies that throw the hammers. So it's kind of hard to judge or get a good grasp on their patterns, or at least I did. And that was pretty challenging to get that done. Thankfully, since I play through the online Switch online service, there are some quality of life improvements such as save states. I'm not gonna lie, I used those towards the end of the game to reserve, the lives I had. Obviously, because if you run out of lives, I believe you start over from the beginning. Back then, back in the day when we had 2 or 3 games, sure, we'll replay the game. No problem, but being a modern gamer with hundreds of games in my backlog, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna use save states and not lose all my lives, and not stress out, not grow white hair out of it. But the challenge is there, and it's warranted because the game is pretty short. I think it took me, I want to say maybe an hour and a half maybe to complete the whole game. I don't know. It's a pretty short game, so obviously, back in the day there were warranted, I guess, reasons to have that replay value of losing the lives and restarting all over from the beginning. But nowadays, I'll take any help I can get to complete the game. And nothing to prove here, left to prove for me. I played all these games back in the day and beat them, so I'm not gonna stress out about it too much. But overall, my thoughts, Super Mario Brothers is a classic. I really wanted to do an impressions or review video in this case, just to give my quick thoughts on a classic. I don't consider myself an NES guy. Like, I don't have as much nostalgia for NES games as I do for Super Nintendo games, because that's where I spent most of my childhood, playing SNES games. But nevertheless, this is a classic. This is, in my opinion, the true iconic, old school game where it all started in terms of gaming. So you know, it doesn't get any more classic, any better than this. You know, Super Mario Brothers, a fantastic start to the legacy of Nintendo, and the Mario, you know, mascot that, you know, nowadays, you know, it's a multi-billion, you know, dollar, you know, I guess entertainment, you know, part of the entertainment industry. So that's pretty amazing where it all started. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all later. Take it easy.